Hi, Ben here from Trout Fly Fishing. Today I'm going to be comparing two great entry-level, delicate presentation rods, the TFO Finesse Trout and the TFO Finesse Glass. Check them out right now. The TFO Finesse came out a few years ago as TFO's answer to the moderate action trout rod craze that's been going on. And we've seen virtually every company come out with a new moderate action rod in the last couple of years. TFO released the Finesse a couple of years back, and they've since updated it with two models, the TFO Finesse Trout, which is the carbon fiber model, and the Finesse Glass, that is the, obviously, fiberglass model. These rods are going to be designed for smaller water, smaller flies, and lighter tippets. And of course, while other rod manufacturers are competing for the highest price, TFO has released these at a very moderate $229 price point so that everyone can get the feel of a moderate action rod. Now, before we get out and cast these rods, we're going to start like we always do and go through some of the components on these rods. Starting from the bottom, we've got single up-locking reel seats with a nice wood spacer on both of these rods. You're gonna notice it's very similar. The glass has a slightly shinier finish to give it that more classic look. As we move up, we've got this reversed half-wells grip, which is gonna be pretty standard for most trout rods. And this is actually not my favorite of the reversed half-wells grips. I don't quite know exactly what it is, but it just doesn't fit my hand quite right. Moving on up the blank, the graphite version has got this nice sort of deep olive green color, and the glass has sort of a maroon burgundy colored blank. They're both pretty nice looking rods overall, and they're definitely not going to stand out as you're fishing. Of course, TFO adds alignment dots to all of their rods, which we like and saves you some time on the water. And as we move up, you'll see all the typical TFO componentry with nice lightweight stripping guides and hard chrome snake guides and tip toppers. Now, let's get out and cast these two. Starting at our first distance of 30 feet, both rods are really accurate, but it's pretty clear that the Finesse Trout is actually the softer rod. It's a little bit longer and it's labeled as a true 4-weight as opposed to the 4/5 that the glass version is. So casting Rio Gold, you can definitely tell that it's going to be the softer rod and gives you more feel for those really, really close shots. I enjoyed casting both these rods at the close distance. They both did pretty well. As we move back to 45 feet, things changed a little bit, and to my surprise, the Finesse Glass was actually the better performer. I found that it kept nice stable loops and actually surprisingly good accuracy for middle distance and really, really good accuracy for a glass rod at middle distances. The Trout, on the other hand, seemed to be a little bit too soft in the midsection, and I had a lot of trouble keeping stable loops, especially if I was putting a little bit too much power into the rod. The Finesse Trout is definitely going to be a better rod for short shots and for people who are willing to slow down their casting strokes and not overpower it for the middle distances. Moving back to 60 feet, I expected the glass to completely fall apart. We've seen that with lots of glass rods that we've cast, but actually the TFO performed quite well, and it did so with both an MPX and a Rio Gold. So it's got a huge range and a really, really huge range for a small water marketed glass rod. All in all, I really enjoyed casting both of these rods. While you can tell they're not the absolute highest performing moderate action rods on the market, they're really, really fun, and certainly for my money, I would choose the glass. It felt like it had better performance across the board, but definitely if you're looking for that most delicate presentation and that softer action, the Finesse Trout is going to be the one for you. Now onto the Poseidon score. Starting with the accuracy category, I've given the glass an 8 out of 10. It's really fantastic, particularly for a glass rod across all of our trout distances, and definitely surprised me across the board. The Trout, on the other hand, I've had a lot of trouble getting to perform at that middle distance, and I've given it a 6 out of 10. In terms of components, these rods are virtually identical and pretty much what you're going to see on any TFO rod, and I've given them both a 7 out of 10. Next up is distance, and surprise, surprise, I actually felt that I had better distance out of the glass rod. So while it's no parking lot rod and definitely not a rod that you're going to want to take to your casting competition, The glass will actually give you a bit of distance if you need it, and I've given it a 7 out of 10. The trout is just way too soft, and I've awarded a 5 out of 10. Next is grip, and the grip is identical on both of these rods. And like I said, I can't quite pinpoint it. It's just not the right feel for me, and I've given it a 7 out of 10. In terms of looks and workmanship, these rods are good workhorse rods, but they're not going to be the prettiest rods in the world, and I've given them a 5 out of 10. Moving on to swing weight, the glass, which is a touch shorter, came in at 57 gram meters squared, whereas the trout came in at 59 gram meters squared. Both of these are not great for 4 weights, and particularly slightly shorter 4 weights, so I've given them a 4 out of 10. Next up is value, and both of these rods are priced at $230. However, I felt like you got a lot more performance out of the glass than you did out of the trout, so I've given the glass a 9 out of 10 and given the trout an 8 out of 10 for value. Last but not least is the cool factor, and while none of these rods are going to impress your friends, I feel like glass is definitely the material that people are talking about these days, so I've given the TFO glass a 7 out of 10 and the Finesse Trout a 6 out of 10. And that gives us a total Poseidon score of 54 for the Finesse Glass and 45 for the Finesse Trout, which makes sense as I definitely liked the glass a lot better than the trout. The TFO Finesse series retails for $229 and is available with free shipping from TroutandFlyFishing.com. If you've got questions about these rods, leave us a comment in the box below or reach us anytime at support@TroutandFlyFishing.com. I'm Ben, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.